Tell the listeners, if you had to, for wedding couples, if you had to tell them just a few things, 2 or 3 things that, that to look out for when you're planning a wedding, or the things and issues that you had planning your wedding, what would they be?
That's a really good question.
What type of genre, like the photography genres that you're doing mostly now? I know I see you doing a lot of stuff for traveling and a lot of stuff for your nonprofit and all of that. And I want to talk about your nonprofit after this. But what type of photography is Jermaine doing the most of in 2024?
To wake up and go outside, every black man should be covered.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Because the things you have to go through, or how people see you.
Yes.
Sometimes it's crazy. I'll come outside and I'll just throw some sweatpants on and a t-shirt, and I may go into a store to buy something.
Mm-hmm.
And
everybody looking at you.
They looking at me weird. And I'm like, I wonder why. But then I'll come back with a suit on and a nice watch, and the conversation is totally different.
Totally different. Welcome to the Wedding Dreams Unveiled podcast, your go-to source for insightful conversations with ordinary newlyweds and vendors navigating the difficult world of wedding planning. I'm your host, Livingston Lee, and with a decade of experience and hundreds of weddings captured, I'm here to tell you some of my stories about the photography business. Now let's get started with today's guest, Jermaine Gibbs. Welcome to the studio, my brother.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. Looking forward to this. I've watched a couple episodes.
Yeah.
So you had a good friend of mine, RJ, on here.
Yes.
Very good. So I'm excited about this opportunity.
Man.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes, man. Yes, man. I was like, man, I got to get Jermaine on, man. I was like, he got an interesting story to tell. So, for everybody that's listening right now, this podcast here is not really going to be a whole lot about weddings. It's going to be more so like a lifestyle type of podcast. This one is for my man Jermaine, because that's the type of work that he does. If you ever look at his profile, you look at his website, he does a lot in photography, a whole lot of stuff. So we want to talk about how he got into the business and where he see the business going and things like that. So stay tuned, because this is going to be a great episode. So Jermaine, tell the people, man, tell the listeners, how you got started in photography. Tell them about your photography business, the name, and, all the stuff that you do.
All right. So I started photography actually when I was about 8 years old. I got my first camera. Back then it wasn't digital. It was film.
Right.
I grew up a very shy child. So for me, photography was about documenting history. It was a way to tell stories without having to talk.
Gotcha.
So every time I went outside, I always took my camera and just took pictures. Then I remember running to Rite Aid to get it developed and be anxious to look at it and then share the pictures with the people. And people say, man, I didn't even see you taking those photos. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be. You shouldn't know that I'm taking the photos, because I'm just trying to document those candid moments.
Right.
And then in 2011, I picked up a camera again. I had put the camera down for a while, and I picked it back up, and I just started going to different churches, because I was like, man, how can I really be able to document emotions, stories, especially in the Black community, and do it in a way where people can relate to it. And I figured church would be the ideal place, because most of us grew up in the church. Yeah. We understand the Black church in the community. So I just started randomly showing up at all these different churches, and I would just flood my Facebook page with the different photos, and people's like, who is this guy? Like, nobody see him moving around, but these photos, you see the tears, you see the emotion, you see the person running around, you just see the person just deep in prayer, deep in thought. And I just did that for about 3 years. And then people was like, I've reached out to a couple of friends, hey, let me do a photo shoot. And they said, how much? I said, I'm not worried about the money. I just want to do it. And I started doing it, sharing it on Facebook, and people was like, who's this guy? He's very this is unique. This is different. So I named my first business out of the box photography.
Right.
Because that's what my goal was, to do things in a different way, in a different perspective, and to show different emotions without not necessarily had to always be posed and looking directly in the camera.
Yeah.
And that business kind of grew and did its own thing. I started doing about 40 weddings a year.
That's huge.
And it started just really, I'm going to be honest, like, we don't really talk about this. Yeah, the money good, but you know, it's a different, people don't realize there's a difference between being alive and living.
Yes.
And at that point, I was just alive. I wasn't living, because I'm shooting. Then of course I got to be editing, and I'm talking about sometimes doing 3 to 4 weddings a weekend, which is an awful lot. My body was beat up.
Oh, yes.
It was just starting to really weigh on me, and not only that, it was weighing on me emotionally. Me being away from home. At that point, I mean, I only had one son, but he lived in Florida. But still, it was just like, man, it was just starting to take me away from the things that I enjoy, like bike riding and just camping and all those different things. So I started slowly but surely just start pulling myself away from doing weddings.
Weddings can be a lot on you, man. I have cut back a lot as well, man. I was doing 20 to 30 a year, and I was second shooting a lot of them, and then I had my own as well. So you're talking 30 weddings a year. You gone every weekend, and then you got to edit, and like you said, man, you become almost a slave to the process. Because you're talking thousands of photos. Like I always tell people, when we get to a wedding, an 8-hour wedding, we shooting 7,000-8,000 photos. And then we got to go through them all, and nothing against wedding photography or anything like that, but it's just, you have to have a process in place, whether you have like an editing company or something like that, but it can get to the point, and I know a lot of photographers know exactly what I'm talking about, where you're a slave to the business, because you want the money, because the money is so good. You can make hundreds of thousands of dollars, doing weddings, and it's fun.
Right.
It's a lot of fun, so, but yeah, I cut back a lot too, man, because, I wanted to ride my bike, and get out and spend some time with my family and things like that. And, most weddings is on Saturdays, and I was missing some church a lot as well, and I didn't want to do that anymore, man. So I put important things that was, important to me, my life, and my family back to where it was supposed to be. So I'm with you, man. I feel exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So how did you get the name Junique Eye? Let's talk about that, Mr. Junique Eye.
So when I created that, I know it's hard to believe now, but it wasn't about pushing myself. It was about pushing my work. So I would post, I had to create a name that was something that was different. The J is for Jermaine.
Yep.
The unique is because, the unique eye. Because a lot of my clients say, man, you got a really unique eye. And I just kept hearing it.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to use that. But I used to only post my work, and people didn't really know who was the face behind the Junique Eye. And then people would start saying, okay, this guy was at this place. He was the only photographer. And then, oh, this is the guy who was there. And I said, start talking to some people. I said, man, you should just, on your page, you should do a mixture, because it's one thing to sell your business, but it's even better when you can have a mixture of people can actually know who you are. So they can just see that you're not just a photographer, but what do you do outside of photography? Who really is Jermaine? The family man, the Christian, the person who like to travel. If you give people that perspective, it almost feel like a sense of, oh, I actually know who he is, versus we just know this guy with the camera.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. That's awesome. I like that. Yeah, because when you said people were saying it was unique, I was like, that must be how you got the name, That's awesome. So you got married recently, man, about 3 years ago. And usually I bring couples in that's been married, around 18 months, 2 years ago or something like that, and have them just kind of explain what they went through. And, I had the honor of being one of the photographers at your wedding, with Kenny Clapp. And, it was fun. We had a great time. And That's actually where I met RJ at. Dwayne Hazelwood introduced me to him and, telling me all about the Peculiar Collective. And I was like, man, I don't even know anything about that, man. I said, and he was like, well, I'm going to send you an invite. And from there is how I met RJ, man. But, tell the listeners, if you had to, for wedding couples, if you had to tell them just a few things, 2 or 3 things that, that to look out for when you're planning a wedding, or the things and issues that you had planning your wedding, what would they be?
That's a really good question. I'm going to say the number one thing is to do your research.
Okay.
When it comes down to hiring all your vendors, from photographers to videographers to the planner to the venue, do your research. Try to figure out if people have used them in the past, and just make sure they're going to provide the level of service that you're expecting.
Okay.
For us, my wife was for me, I told my wife, you can do all of the planning, find all the vendors. Only thing I request is let me find the photographer and the videographer.
Right.
And I'm not looking to, because there's so many people who reached out to me that just wanted to be a blessing and do it. And I said, nope, absolutely not.
Yep.
I want to hire somebody, and whatever they say the cost is, that's what I'm going to pay. I don't want any discounts. I don't want any of that. I want to, because I respect people and I respect business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not like, oh yeah, I could have got somebody to do my wedding for $1,000 or $2, but no, I want quality, and I want to make sure that I'm being respectful, because as a photographer myself, I know how it is with, oh, well, we was going to use you, but so-and-so said they would do it for blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that's what's killing the industry right now.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about what's killing the industry as well. Who else talked about that was Chip Dezard. He talked about, not having just anybody do his wedding, and he had people reaching out to him, and just to say that they kind of it was his. And it sounded like you went through the same thing, and you just like, well, no, I want to be the customer, I want to be the client that that you expect me to be. I don't want any handouts or any freebies, so it sounded like that's what you did, and I respect that, because when you have like a large social media following like you have, then, you have people that want to, hey man, look, I'll do it for this, or I'll do it for free, because they want to get the publicity that comes along with the social media stuff, So I definitely respect that, man. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yes. So also I would say, outside of researching, make sure that before you even research, you know what you want.
Yes. Because
a lot of times, especially nowadays, people get so caught up in what they see everybody else doing that they want to do the exact same things instead of sticking to, no, this is how we want our day to go. This is from A to the end. Me and my wife already knew this is how we want the flow of our day to go. We're not going on social media trying to find ideas, trying to give pictures of, oh, we want this picture, we want that. No. We just, certain shots we must get with our parents, my oldest living relative, and those was more important than, I like this pose that I seen these people do. And no, we have to pull back from getting so caught up in what you see on social media, because people don't realize from a creative perspective, those people are certain sizes. Yeah. You shooting from certain angles. So it'll look a certain way for that group.
So true.
But if you got a wedding party that don't align the same way, and I take the exact same photo and we put the two together, and it's like, oh, mine don't look like that. Well, did you think about the different sizes? Did you think about the suits? Because those people all had custom suits, where a custom suit costs a certain amount of money because the way it hugs your body. You have no hate, but you have a tuxedo house. They don't fit the same way. And then sometimes they just throw those things together, and it just, you can't expect it to come out the same exact way.
Right. No, it's, man, that's a hot take right there, man. A hot take, because I know you do a lot with the suit stuff, you know, and the campaign for the gray hair and all of that, and we'll talk about that later. But you are so right, man, because when you get to certain sizes of different wedding parties, it makes all the difference in the world of how you shoot, whether you're shooting up, whether you're shooting down, you know, all of that determines how those photos are going to come out, you know. So I definitely agree 100% with that, man. That's awesome. What type of genre, like the photography genres that you're doing mostly now? I know I see you doing a lot of stuff for traveling and a lot of stuff for your nonprofit and all of that. And I want to talk about your nonprofit after this. But what type of photography is Jermaine doing the most of in 2024?
So right now, I'm mostly doing corporate stuff.
Okay.
Headshots, helping brands to have the right content to push their brand to the next level. And not really doing events.
Okay.
Not really doing baby showers. I'm really like, my main focus has been the corporates.
The corporate stuff?
Yeah, because I'm really go after retainers.
Yes.
It's a whole different level of business, but you also must have your business together to get these type of clients, because there's a lot of requests from their end. Like, can you see me a W-9 and all of that?
Yeah,
I'm
man.
learning that some people are like, what is that?
Yeah.
So it's a lot more requirements from the client.
Yeah.
But what they want from you in turn from the creative side is a lot less.
Yes. Yeah.
And the money is, you're guaranteed it. Yeah. It's you're going to get what you, it's not going to be, oh, well, can you do this? No. Okay, send invoice. We're going to take care of it right away.
Nice.
Or we do a net 30.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yep. You know who else, man? I hate to keep bringing him up, but Chip, same thing. He said he's getting away from weddings and going more corporate, you know, and I get it. That's an awesome thing, man. So your nonprofit, I see you do a lot of photos with that as well. Let's talk about your nonprofit. What is it? What do you do with it, and how it came about?
All right, so let's start with how it came about, because I think that's the biggest part of the story.
Okay.
And it'll guide us right into where we are now.
Okay.
So photography is what got me there. So let me backtrack it one more time. So in 2015, my prayer was, God, I want you to mix my gift with my calling.
Okay.
My gift is photography. I'm self-taught. Everything I know is taught to myself.
Right.
My gift is I'm a lover of people, and I have a heart to give.
Yeah.
And a Facebook friend reached out to me. I'll never forget this. I was shooting.
So hold on one second. I remember, man. I don't know. This probably was 6, 7, 8 years ago. I saw you on Facebook pulling up at the underpath right there at 83, and you was handing out groceries to like the homeless people. Back when it wasn't cool. You know what I mean? You was doing it back then. I remember seeing that, and I was like, man, that's pretty cool, man. You know, so hats off to you for that, man, and props to you for that. So I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, it's fine.
I just want the listeners to know, like, you've been doing that.
Oh yeah.
You know?
So I was shooting prom, and I got a call. Do you travel? I said, sure. I would even travel to Africa if I had the opportunity. Yeah. And they said, oh, that's so funny, because that's what I was reaching out to you for, to see if you would love to travel with us to Ghana. We'll be doing mission work. And I said, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I said, let's talk. Let's sit down and talk. And we started talking, but really all this was just through inbox. And then we finally got to meet in person. And they was going to Ghana to do mission work for about 30 days. And I said, oh my God, 30 days of doing mission, going to Africa. My first time, I'm gonna be there for 30 days. Yeah. So I started doing this project. I said, okay, well, what I don't want to do is, it's almost like I'm gonna go cold turkey on eating a Pacific food, and then I just want to say I'm gonna stop. So I said, you know what? Let me prepare myself. So that's what I did. What you talked about is called the unheard people.
Yeah.
So my goal was to go out and hear the stories of how you became homeless. And I went out there with I'm gonna be honest, I went out there with the mindset of just asking people questions, sitting down, talk to them, but I wanted to be personal.
Right.
And actually understand why these people out there. I remember the first day, I was right on the corner of Martin Luther King and Marbury. And there was a brother named Lonnie out there. He used to be out there every day. He was the first person I encountered. And I said, okay, he's always out here. Let me go talk to him. And I pulled him from there. I said, let me just talk to you for about 5 minutes. He said, man, you're going to give me some money. I said, all right, here's $10. So we went and sat inside his tent.
Right.
And I said, Lonnie, how did this happen? And he said, what? I said, how did you wind up being on the streets? He said, oh, this is by choice.
Wow.
I said, what do you mean by choice? He said, I'm free. I don't have any responsibility. I don't have to, nobody telling me what to do, what not to do. I don't have to pay any bills. And I was like, I never even thought about that perspective.
Yeah, man.
He said, yeah. He said, I got family. I got places I can go stay, but I'd rather be out here and have no responsibility. And I can do this. And sometimes I may walk away at the end of the day with $50. Some days I may have $100. I said, so you could possibly be making $500 to $1,000 in a week. He said, yeah. Wow. So why would I need to go live in a house just so I said, oh, wow, okay. And that kind of discouraged me because I said, oh, this is how I'm starting off. And then I went to go meet with a client. I produced my first coffee table book.
Okay.
And I was going to deliver it to them. And I was leaning on my car, signing the book, and there was a homeless guy sitting on the steps, and he came over, asking the guy that was with me. He said, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Why are you taking pictures of him? What is he doing? And the guy was like, oh, that's his book, and he just signing it. And then he came over to me and said, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, sure. And we got to talking. And he was like, yeah. And I said, what are you doing out here? And we sat down. And he was like, yeah, I used to live in this high rise. I got put out and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow. And then I was like, okay, all right, this is restoring my faith because I was just getting discouraged because I ran into one person who actually wanted to be out here. And this person, like his family abandoned him and all these different things. I was like, wow. And I said, can I pray for you? And he said, absolutely. And I never done Facebook Live a day in my life. This was 2016, March of 2016. And I gave him my phone and I said, turn Facebook Live on. And I'm praying, but I'm not praying so you can actually hear what I'm saying.
Right.
You could just see that I'm praying for this brother.
Yeah.
And people were blown away. That was the first time I ever went viral with a video.
Yeah.
And I mean, thousands of people. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And I was just like, all from me, just genuinely reaching a hand and praying for this brother.
Man.
And I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna stay focused. Okay. And I went back out the next day and I met a brother named Sterling who was 30 years old. He was sleeping under the bridge right by healthcare for the homeless. And I said, how did you get out here? Why are you out here? And he said, I went to jail, came home, reached out to my family thinking that I was going to be good. I was going to be able to go back home and they all abandoned me. So this is the only place I have. And this was, and to mind you, it was like, this probably about March 10th. So it's still cold. I said, man, I said, where are your belongings? Like, he said, what I got on, that's all I have. Man. And I said, if you could have a few items, what would you like to have? And he said, man, a coat, some boots, some gloves, some razor so I can shave, just so I can feel like I'm human again.
Yeah.
And, we sat on the crates talking, and I said, okay. And I left there and went to Walmart. And I went and bought everything he had. Then I went in my closet because I had a whole bunch of stuff that I know I didn't need.
Right.
And I showed back up the next day and I said, Sterling, come here for a second. And I passed my phone to my homeboy. I said, turn the video on. And I said, remember we talked yesterday and you gave me this long list of things you needed and wanted. And I said, well, come with me. And I popped my trunk. And he said, and he just started saying, Hamdulillah, like he was a Muslim.
Yeah, he was a Muslim.
And he said, oh my God. Like he said, you don't even know me. I just met you and you did all this. He said, you know what I mean? People come down here and say they're going to do this and do that. And they never do. But you're a man of your word. You actually came. I said, yeah. If I say I'm going to do something, regardless whether I know you or not, I'm going to do it. And I gave him this stuff. And he was just blown away.
Right.
And then I posted it, and the brother reached out to me named Basil. And he said, bro, next time you go out, let me know what you need. I'm going to help you.
Nice.
And I said, well, you know what? I'm out here, and there's a lot of people laying on the ground. They don't have tents or anything. So we partnered together and got all the tents. So all the tents that you seen in 2016 of all those people laying under, we went and got them and provided all those people
I
tents.
remember seeing some of those stories too.
And the people were just blown away, and we start making friends and come out there every day. And then we start like, okay, other friends and family joined me and start passing out food. And then she wasn't even my wife at that time. She came out. She was just, we had met and we was talking, and I told her what I was doing, and she came out and she was just like, wow, this guy really has a heart. Like, nice. And from there, what it was doing was, I did it 30 days leading up to when I was going to Ghana. Yeah. What it did was prepared me, and I didn't know at the time, it was preparing me for what I was about to see in Ghana, because there's a poverty here and poverty in Ghana is two different even things, in the worst neighborhood here is way better than what you could see in some of the slums you'll see in Ghana. And I was just like, thank God that I did that, because it prepared me mentally and emotionally, because if not, I probably would have broke down seeing some of the stuff I seen. Wow. And that's how kind of the philanthropy thing started. And when I went to Ghana, again, I was just there, they was doing revivals. Right. So every day was just different church. And that's what we did. And then I came back home and I said, man, I'm going
with a different mindset. And it put in my mind, the one thing I will never do is complain. Yes. I will never be ungrateful, because even on my worst day is better than their best day there. Yeah. So I went back the next year, and I remember I did a fundraiser and said I need to collect some money. And again, I ain't know none of this stuff. Yeah. And people had seen me with that project. So they was like, oh no, we're going to support this brother. Nice. So I raised about $4,000, went back, had a ton of clothes, ton of shoes and all this stuff, and went and gave all this stuff out. And before I left, I said, take me to a school. I just want to see a school here. And I went to the school and I was like, wow, I don't really have anything to give you, but I promise you, when I come back, God willing, I'm going to be able to bless you with so many different things and give you all these amazing things and all that. Right. And then I came back home and I met up with Basil and some other friends and family. I said, I want to start a nonprofit. And they said, what do you want to do? And I told them about what I seen in Africa. And they said, well, let's do it. And we started doing the paperwork, and we planned out a mission trip and went in 2019, and it opened their eyes up. Nice. So Hope Missions is the name of the nonprofit, but what it is it's an acronym. Okay. For help open people's eyes. Nice. Because that's all I'm doing is opening people's eyes. Okay, I got you. I'm giving you hope, but I'm actually opening your eyes. Because every time I take a group of people to Ghana or anywhere in a third world country, we doing some work. Right. It's going to open their eyes and completely change their life forever. Wow, man. It's that may be something I think I want to get involved in, man. Seriously, man. My wife, I always tell her how I want to, just help or do whatever I can. And like you said, the poverty that's here, the people that's poor here live like kings. Exactly. They live like kings and queens compared to these third world countries. It's sad, and I'm sure it will open my eyes up, because I've never been there, so we'll have to talk about that, man, because that is definitely something that I would love to get into, man. I mean, I would love to get into that. Yeah, it'll forever change your life. I don't think I've ever taken anybody there who came back the same. Right. It just give you a sense of, I should be more than blessed and grateful to God. And don't complain.
We run the water 5 minutes before we get in the shower. Where I've been places where people are walking 5 miles to get dirty water.
Wow. Man.
I remember we built our first well and we commissioned it. And I sat down with a brother and he said, he was about 28 at the time. He said, never in my life would I had thought that I would get to experience clean water.
Right.
To be able to have access to clean water. You have completely changed our life. And now when I say this village was remote, like the people were living off the grid because they had nowhere to go. It was just some farmland. So what happens is the chief of the village will say, okay, y'all can stay here and build these little huts, but in turn, you're going to farm for free.
Right. So they're working
for free just so they can have a place to stay.
Right.
And literally it's just twigs and mud the houses are made of. And the most iconic thing that I've ever seen in this village was on the doorway of the house was written in a blue marker, "We thank God."
Nice.
I said, man,
yeah,
we got nice houses and all this stuff,
man.
And these people have absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And this is their message on the outside of the house.
Yeah.
It just hit right here. Hey,
yeah, brother. You talking about faith, man? That's faith right there.
Yeah.
Because when you live in those kind of conditions, when something happened here, like a tornado or hurricane or something like that, people was, well, why did this happen to me? And those people over there live like that. You know what I'm saying? The faith to continue to still depend on God and to, be happy that you're still living and you still have life, man. That's faith, man.
Yeah. And the crazy part is when we commissioned the well, and then we was about to leave, we had this little service just to kind of speak encouraging word in life.
Yeah.
And I asked them, I said, what's one thing that y'all would love to have in this village that you don't have? And they said Bibles.
Nice.
I said, Bible. I immediately went straight to Facebook, posted it, told people about it. In less than 30 minutes, we raised enough money to buy 45 Bibles so everybody in this entire village can have Bibles.
That's awesome. That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. We was at church one time, man, and it was a guy. I think he was 90 something, and he was blind, and he said all he wanted to do was read the Bible, and I was like, wow, man, you don't think about those types of things because we have them. We have eyes. We can hear. We can taste. You see what I'm saying? You don't realize those things until it's gone, and it's the small stuff. And they just want some scriptures.
That's it.
That's all they want, man.
And I said, these people have nothing. No, barely old clothes that's just so ran down. It's like how to even get that on.
Yeah.
And they could be asking for clothes. They could be asking for shoes.
They just want a Bible.
They want to read the word.
They want to read the word, man, and continue having that faith. That's awesome. That is awesome, man. So, talk about some of the famous people that you have photographed. I know you have had a chance to, photograph some famous people. Let's talk about some of the people that you photographed and has that changed you being able to be in those types of circles to be able to do that?
Man, the one good thing is, so when I first started this thing in the beginning, on the second year, God connected me with a young lady who was working with BET, and I got to go to what is the awards that the BET? They do them every February. Oh, I know, it's the NAACP
Image Awards.
I got to go to that,
and
then I got to go to the reception, and I'm behind and I said, oh my God, like how did I even get here? And God was whispering in my ear saying, this is me just showing you early on what I can give you access to.
Nice. And
I've worked with, I can't even name so many different celebrities, TD Jakes, work with a lot of NFL players. I mean, just so many people that I don't even get caught up that they're celebrities. So what I learned is they are regular people.
Yep.
And they want to live regular lives.
Yeah.
And they want to be as regular as possible. So when you look at it from that aspect, like I can now be in a room. I work with an organization called Black Men's Wear, where we traveling around the world, doing these campaigns about changing the narrative of Black men.
Okay.
And we used to do a series every Friday. We would bring in 3 celebrities and just interview them and have a talk like we talk in a podcast.
Yeah, right.
And just to be, and it's me, the 2 guys, the 3, it's maybe 10 people in a room. So you in an intimate space just like this. Yeah. And just to be able to be in and listen to have those conversations with them, you really understand that there's no difference between me and them. It's just a lot of people just know them because their faces all over the TV or the internet. So it just kind of put you at a place like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be like, oh, well, and it could be some people that I like, oh my God, I got to meet them. And I don't, I just kind of lay low and just and take it all in and allow them to be who they really are. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. How many countries have you been to, while traveling? I used to see that you used to post a lot of the, some of the stuff you used to post was you would, tag like National Geographics in there. And then you got the gray hair campaign. You got the suits. You know, talk a little bit about those things and the different countries that you've traveled to, and how it's changed the way photography. I mean, how it's changed your perspective on photography when you get to these places.
So this is one of my favorite topics. So I started traveling really heavy in 2015. Okay. I did a 30-day tour. I did Australia and Fiji. And I like the non-commercialized travel where I'm getting to meet the tribes and going into like sitting in people kitchens and sitting in the living room having a meal and really, really tapped into my photojournalism bag.
Yeah.
So I was traveling so much throughout the continent of Africa and so many other places, but in very remote places. And so many creatives was reaching out to me, say, oh my God, I'm living vicariously through you, but I wish I could be able to do something like this. And in 2019, I created an initiative. It's called Through the Lens. Okay. So every year I said, let me try this out, see what happened. Yeah. And 2019, I went to Tanzania for 2 weeks, did research, partnered with some other photographers that I met on Instagram. Yeah. So you talking about faith. I had to put faith in them because I'm going in a strange place and had no clue these brothers. Shout out to my brother Hans and Hyper, who opened the door for me to really push this initiative. Yeah. And later that year, I brought back 6 creatives from DMV. Really? We had an amazing time. We did Zanzibar and we did Tanzania for about 15 days. And then I didn't know that was going to start something. And next thing you know, I did it the next year. We went to, COVID hit. We supposed to go to Ethiopia. So we didn't go. Took a year off. Came back strong. Did Ethiopia. Right. Ethiopia completely changed our lives and our perspective from a creative's perspective because we went into some of the super remote areas. And I'm really heavy into tribe and culture. Yeah. So we went into super remote areas and got to meet some of the most amazing tribes and people and understand why this tribe do this, why this tribe do this.
That gotta be cool.
And we are now officially 5 years in. Man. So we are doing our 5-year anniversary trip this coming November. Nice. Where we'll be going back to Tanzania, we'll be going to Zanzibar, and we're actually going to Kenya as well. So we're doing 3 countries in one trip. Right. But one of the big reasons I started doing this is in my mind was to give a voice to the voiceless. Okay. And the villages, a lot of I say National Geographic because a lot of National Geographic people will go in and get the stories and all that, but to be honest, a lot of them don't look like us. Right. So what happens is they give the story to them, but of course some of the stuff is so raw that they can't really put those stories out. So then there's changing the words around and changing things around.
Really?
And then we never really understand the real story.
Right.
So what I vowed to do was to really, the story they tell me, the way they tell it to me is how I'm going to tell it to the people.
Nice.
And that's exactly what I started doing. When I'm talking to the people and asking the questions, the same answers they give me, I'm giving that same raw, uncut, unedited video just so people can see like, oh, this is the real deal. It's not like me pretend or trying to make stuff up.
Yeah.
So one thing I did in 2019, I took a lot of photos of the Maasai tribe, which is the biggest tribe in East Africa. And they are super popular now because they do this thing where they jump. The higher you can jump, it's like when it's time for the wives to choose the man, or whatever man could go the highest is sometimes who they'll choose.
Right.
So that's the significance about that. They wear the color red as a deterrent because they're a warrior, so they hunt lions. To actually become a real Maasai warrior, you have to hunt a lion.
What?
But the red is a deterrent to keep the lions away.
Wow.
The color red.
So you hung out with this tribe?
I actually not hung out with them. I slept in tents in their village.
Wow, man.
Not just me, but all the people. And that's what I said. I call it the National Geographic experience for African American people.
Yeah.
Because the average African American will never get into a remote area in Arusha, Kilimanjaro, and experience this stuff.
Yeah.
Like where we literally slaughtered the animal, got to actually eat it and really do the traditional dance, sleeping in a tent. And in a tent, there a circle, and they have a guard person that's on 24 hours.
Right.
When guests come. And then they have a dog. So let's just say a lion comes close by.
Right.
The person that's on duty may have dozed off, but the animal immediately picks up on it. He barks. That immediately wakes up the guard, and then the guard is on duty. Right. So we got actually, just to be able to do that was just like, when I say it completely changed my life. And not only that, when I travel like this, I travel with one camera, one lens, because we have got so caught up in you got to have 10 different lenses and all this different stuff, and you become lazy. Yeah. But when you have one lens and one camera, it forces you to get closer.
Yep.
Getting closer requires to have more conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
More conversations will allow you to get to know the people. Yeah. You're not just taking a picture of a nice looking person or something that oh, this gonna hit on Instagram, but you're gonna ask the person their name. You're gonna know their age. You're gonna know a little bit about them. And that's what I kind of instill on the people I take with me is, I always ask, do you know that person? You took that picture? Oh, dang, I didn't think of it. No, you should always take your little journal. Journal every day, even when you're not taking pictures, just journal. So that way, when you get back home, because there's so much excitement, there's so much going on, you're not going to remember all this. Wow. So I usually do a video journal when I wake up in the morning. Hey, this is day one, but I'm here, la. And that way I can come back and just, like I was going through my phone last week and going back through my first trip to Kenya. And I was just like, wow, this is how it all started. Yeah. So just to be able to be in those moments. And then what I did in 2019, I took a lot of photos. And I know in this village where there's no water, there's no nothing, I guarantee these people never seen a picture of themselves other than you showing the back of your camera or your phone. So I knew I was going to go back because I went in March to do the research and came back, and I printed out all these photos. Yeah. And when I tell you the faces, when I made sure I went and found all these people that I took pictures of and gave them the print, just to be able to see the expression of them seeing that self. Yeah. It's hope. Right. Again, everything falls back to hope. It's just giving people hope.
Yeah. Wow, man. That's an awesome story, man. This is see, I told y'all this podcast was gonna be great. That's awesome, man, because I'm very passionate about helping people and trying to do the most I can for others, man. And that's just in me, bro. You know what I mean? It's just in me, man. So tell me about the campaign that you're doing with the gray hair and the suits and all of that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So usually I randomly came up with this idea that, you know, a lot of times, especially when you start tapping into the corporate world,
Yep.
what it will do is you're not being as creative as you're normally being. So I said, you know what? I need to do a passion project.
Yeah.
Which will allow me to be creative, but also have a story behind it.
Right.
So last year I did Suited in Black History, which was about finding 20 for every day of the month of February. We shot 28 brothers and we shot video, and we asked them, what was it like being a Black man?
Yeah.
And what's the importance of the legacy you want to leave? And just what should people know about why it's important to be presentable and wearing a suit?
Right.
And that
I love to wear suits.
Suited in Black History was literally just that. It was about changing the narrative of how people see Black men. So what I did was I wanted to go back to the old theme of back in the 60s. So every guy in this campaign, one of the requirements was that you had to have not just a suit, but you had to wear a tie.
Right.
Because, you know, just throwing a suit on and some tennis shoes is normal now.
Right.
I said, no, we want to really show people that people took time to be presentable and to show themselves in a suit.
Yeah.
So that was really just to like highlight brothers and just to give brothers their flowers. Because there's so many conferences and this and that for women, but nobody is really focusing on a Black man.
Yeah.
And if anybody need encouragement, uplifting and all that, just to wake up and go outside, every Black man should be covered.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Because the things you have to go through or how people see you.
Yes.
You know, sometimes it's crazy. I'll come outside and I'll just throw some sweatpants on and a t-shirt, and I may go into a store to buy something. And
everybody looking at you.
They looking at me weird. And I'm like, I wonder why. But then I'll come back with a suit on and a nice watch, and the conversation is totally different.
Totally different. That's a shame, man, because like a lot of the guys that I know, man, or work with, you know, sometimes I had to tell them about the experiences that we have, and some of them are just amazed at. They just, it's like, man, I would never had thought that, you know, and it's true because we get looked at different, we get judged differently, and it's not right, and we shouldn't have to live like that, but we do. You know, when we get pulled over, it's completely different from if, you know, a Caucasian brother get pulled over or something like that. It's completely different, you know, and it shouldn't be like that, but it is, you know, and we got to teach our kids, man, how to, you know, if you get pulled over, what to do, you know, because so something, you know, you won't get this phone call in the middle of the night that something happened to your son, or, you know, it used to be just the men, but then you start to see it happening to Black women as well.
Yeah, it's starting to happen more and more to Black women, which is sad that we have to even be having this conversation, but it's the reality. So that's why it was so important that we really highlight brothers and let them know, brother, we know what you have to go through and some of the things you have to overcome. And it's amazing for a Black man to have to go through all these, but at the end of the day, they still pushing because we are naturally providers.
Yeah, for sure.
We're naturally hard workers.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to, that was the whole point of the Suited in Black History campaign.
Yeah.
Now the Gray campaign was a little bit more personal because some people gray early, some people kind of was born gray. And I said, you know what? I know for me, it was a struggle because when I first started to get my gray hair, I was probably about 35. And I fought it probably, I probably dyed my hair for a good 6 or 7 years. And finally, about 5 years ago, I said, I'm done. I'm just going to have to embrace me. And that's why we did the embracing your grays. Yeah. But it was what we had to do is, we had to do it in a creative way that people can see it and they can relate. Right. Because if I just took some pictures in a random video, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah. But, you know, every post we did, we shared a story of why this person embraced their gray or what made this person embrace their gray. But we did it in a stylish way because the stylish was to get people attention. And then once we got people attention, they really started reading the posts. And some of the the messages I was getting, some of the comments, it was just like, wow, thank you so much. I needed this. And it was like,
Nice.
end of the day, it's not just, it was a passion project, but it was a passion project with a purpose.
Yeah.
To realize, you know what? Some people say, I'm not even gonna dye my hair no more. I'm just gonna really embrace, because when you're dyeing your hair, it's like you're hiding behind who you really are,
man. You are.
And what I learned is, you know what? People have to accept me for who I am.
That's right.
Because if I'm walking around acting like I'm something that I'm not, that's the same equivalent of dyeing my hair. It's really,
man.
It's like, bro, it's okay to just give up.
Yeah.
It's okay to be 50 years old, 40 years old with gray hair.
Yeah, man.
Because if God gave it to you, he gave it to you for a reason. And I remember for me, it was like, I'm too young to have gray hair.
Yeah.
I can't, no. And it was people that was older people that was speaking encouraging words that say, it's wisdom.
Yeah.
That means you're full of wisdom.
That's Proverbs.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's a blessing. Yeah. So if God gave me wisdom as a blessing, why should I vanish his blessing by covering it up?
By covering it up, yeah.
So I said, you know what? I'm gonna have to walk and being who I truly am.
That's right.
And it's gonna be gray or no gray. And it was one of the best things I've done, because I just like, okay, this is who I am.
This is who I am. Scriptures say God hate every false way. You know what I mean? They also talk about the wisdom of the gray hair in Proverbs. So anybody that's listening to this that want to know about the gray hair, check out Proverbs. I forget what chapter and verse, but it's in Proverbs. But yeah, man, absolutely, brother. You know, the Lord hate every false way, man. And I'm not preaching or anything. I'm just quoting that scripture that the Lord hate every false way. And like you said, man, I'm getting some gray in here. You know what I mean? Your boy getting some right here. And it's a couple guys was like, man, you need to just, put some dye in there. I said, man, I ain't dyeing nothing. You know what I'm saying? When it come in, it's gonna come in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and some people get it earlier than others, and it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So, how has like social media, like with those campaigns and all of those things you're doing, how has social media changed the way you do things, and how has it changed the photography industry as a whole?
Good question. So for me, those campaigns really pushed me to be like, okay, it's time to figure out what's going to be next. But again, every campaign, because people don't realize this, like we rented a PS space. We had to get the creative team on board. We had to get the stylist, the makeup artist, and nobody got a penny off of that.
Right.
So it wasn't about the money, where people kept hitting me, oh, I want to be a part of this. Like, no, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice, because this was all funded by me. It was not like I got sponsored or somebody said they're going to contribute this. No. Yeah. Because it's important to share these messages and share these stories. Wow. So I'm actually currently came up with a new idea for a new campaign that I'm about to start working on in either August or September. And this is something totally different for me. So it's requiring a lot of research. Yeah. But I know that when people see it, it's going to be like, wow, this is actually amazing. Yeah. So, it's as a creative, again, sometimes you can suffer from burnout. Because you're just doing
it's
too
like
much.
It's like a writer's block.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to do these things to kind of keep that creative juices flowing. And I'm learning that, in the corporate space, it's cut and dry. Yeah. It's not really being creative.
No.
So in order to help balance it out and to keep you passionate about what you're doing, you have to incorporate these passion projects, or just say, you know what, I got an idea for a shoot. Let me find somebody I want to partner with and let me do this.
Yeah.
So it's super important that I do this. So, I'm starting to learn to actually incorporate it more. And it's not about the time. It is like, okay, the same way I block out time on my calendar for a shoot, I have to block out time for this campaign.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. I love that. That brings me into like some of your work has been featured in like magazines and museums. How did you get your work into like a museum? How how, like, I know you said you met the girl from that hooked you up with the people from BET. Like, what type of connection that got you to that point where they said, all right, we're going to, put this here on display in this museum?
So how I got into the museum was, for me, when the uprising happened in Baltimore, there was a pivotal moment where I could have been like, oh, well, how can I make money off of this? Or, oh, well, I don't need to be out there shooting because there ain't no way to make money off it. But I said, as a creative and as a photographer, I have to think to going to the museums and seeing how they documented stuff that was happening in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
And I said, I play a major part in that, because if I don't document this, how will my kids and my family 30 years from now be able to see what was happening in 2015?
Yeah.
So I said, I have to be out there. And I remember the very first day I was out there, I went to Mondawmin, because this is where it all started.
That's where it all started.
And a guy came to me, tapped me on my shoulder and said, are you a real photographer, or you just somebody out here taking photos? I said, no, I'm a real photographer.
I'm a real photographer.
And I gave him my card and didn't hear anything. And I
Mm-hmm.
was out there for 10 days straight, 12 hours a day minimum.
Wow.
And I didn't post any of the photos.
I was only out there for like one day, and I thought I was doing something. I wasn't doing nothing then.
You was doing something. But I just, I was just like,
Yeah.
it's like when I go in, I go all the way in.
Right.
So I, 2 weeks later, I got an email and say, hey, brother, I went through your website and I seen some amazing photos. I mean, some of the most intriguing photos on your website is the stuff I see you shooting in the churches, but I don't see the stuff from the riots. I said, oh, that's because I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with those photos. And I don't believe they should live on my website or any social media channels.
Nice.
That's why they're not there.
Right.
And I scrolled down to the bottom of the email and it said curator for the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Now, this is in the phases of when they was building. It wasn't even built. And I said, somebody's scamming me. I'm not even going, this is a scam.
Man, I tell my wife that all the time.
I said, this is a scam. So, because I remember in 2014, I said, God, my one dream, if I could do anything, is to have my work in the Smithsonian. So I was like, this is a joke. I responded back, oh, well, if you would like to see these photos, I'll be more than welcome, like to come to DC and I can show them to you. And he responded back and
not
said,
send them to you,
right,
but show them to you. Yeah.
And he said, no, I got something better. Me and the chief curator will come to your home and you can show us them at your home.
What?
I said, this is a joke. This is really a joke. And I said, okay, here's some dates availability. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to prepare as if it's real. And I put together this little slideshow with about 200 pictures. I was living in Owens Mills at the time. And they came in, introduced themselves, gave me the business card. I said, oh, this may be real.
Might be real,
because these are real cards. And I played it on my 55-inch TV. And 2 minutes in, they stopped. And they said, how can we get these photos? I said, if you got external hard drive, you can take them today. And the guy pulled out external hard drive and I gave him all 2,500 photos that I had.
Wow.
And he said, okay, we'll be in touch. And I met with this guy 5 or 6 times. Like, okay, we going through this. And I was like, because again, this wasn't even being built. It hadn't even been built yet. And then finally they was like, all right, we having the official grand opening and we want to invite you to come. And I went. As soon as I walked through that door, there was a temporary exhibition called More Than a Photo.
Right.
And there I seen 6 of my photos in that one exhibit.
Nice.
And I said, oh my God. I was so happy.
Yeah.
Not just to be just to be invited to this premiere that only exclusive people and sponsors had been able to come to.
Right.
But to see your work is just like blew my mind away. Then bring you on the stage, and I was just like, "Oh my God!"
Humbled, right?
I was so humbled.
Yeah, man.
And I was so glad because my girlfriend, who is my wife now, was actually my guest.
Yeah.
And for her to experience this, and we got to experience together, it was life changing.
Yeah.
And then I got an email. It was like, okay, you know what? We chose 19 of your pictures that we want to keep in our catalog.
Wow.
I said, oh wow, okay, I love it. What do you need? And they said, we can either pay you for it or it can be a gift from you. And instantly I said gift, because I already know that money, like, it might be a one-off thing where I'm into long-term relationships.
Right.
And I didn't want them to think it was about money. Well, I know some people chose the money option.
Yeah.
Because it was a good amount of money. And I said, I'm gonna do the gift.
Yeah.
And that kind of pit, like, okay, this brother is not that bad. So then 2 years later, they reached out to me and said, we're working on another project and we want one of your photos to be a part of this. I said, okay, cool. And they sent me the photos and they said, we need you to sign off on it, the licensing and all that. And then I signed off, and then they sent me an invitation to come see it. And I went upstairs on the 5th floor, and I said, oh my God, it's literally probably 50 feet high, 100 feet wide. Like, I can never justify showing it in the photo because it's bigger than this wall.
Wow, man.
And I said, oh my God. And it's been there to date. And this is, it's a huge honor because some other, like Devin Allen is a part of this, Michael McCoy, who are other local photographers who are doing some amazing work. And not only that, actually, Sherrod has work in it. So it's just like, you're a part of these big people. And I said, this is absolutely amazing to be a part of something so great. And then the last thing they did was they said, oh, we doing 50 years of music. And there's one photo you have that we want to put in this book. We're going to be sending out 10,000 copies worldwide.
Yeah.
I said, send me the license agreement. So it's like, if I took the money, I would have probably had one opportunity.
Yeah.
Where I said, you know what? I'm going to do gift, and created that long-term relationship. And now, I asked the guy, I said, how did my work keep being seen if it's not in there? They said, oh, when they did the first exhibition, they took it down. They said, what are we going to do with these photos? And the person who oversees the Smithsonian said, no, these photos need to go upstairs. So these photos, all of my work is now covering the floor on executive level where Oprah Winfrey's offices and all the main people. So there's constant traction coming up and down these hallways.
Yeah.
And that's how they keep, I'm always at the forefront of my name being spoken when it's time to do new exhibitions.
Wow. All because you said, that's a gift.
It's a gift.
So I want photographers to learn from that, because that is super important, that everything is not always about money. You know, sometimes you just got to give. And that go back to the gift, like you said from the beginning, you're a giving person, you know, so that goes back to that. So just keep that in mind as you are, you know, doing your photography work out there. So what advice would you give to an up and coming photographer who wants to travel, you know, kind of like what you do, and want to photograph and take pictures of different tribes and go to different, you know, places and things like that? What advice would you have for them on, you kind of just gave a bunch of advice, really. Any other advice you would give to them about how to get started and what to do?
So I think my first thing is realizing that you have to invest in yourself.
Okay.
Because the first few trips I did, I paid for it myself 100%. Number two, try to find somebody who is doing what you want to do, and ask them, hey, you have opportunity for me to be a mentee, or I love your work, or is there a way we could sit down and talk and build that relationship? And there might be opportunity for you to be a mentee to the person that you look up to.
Yeah.
And then it's, again, you know, one thing that I really always, I'm speaking this from day one: chase passion and not money.
Yeah.
If you chase passion and purpose, it's going to attract the money.
Right.
Because if you just a whole bunch, everything is money, what happens is you're going to find out that you are really just running after money, and really you're an employee of your own business. You're really not an entrepreneur.
Right.
Because you are just chasing that money.
Facts.
You are not really living a life as an entrepreneur where you can almost dictate what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it.
Yeah.
When you become 100% passion and purpose, the opportunities going to turn. You can actually say, I will do this. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. It's like, okay, I pick and choose what I want to do and what I don't want to do, because I realize that, yes, we all love being booked and busy.
Yeah.
But that's not reality. That's not real life, because what it does is it's taken away from your family.
Yeah.
It's taken away from your health.
Yes, absolutely.
It's shortening your life, because you're not getting the proper rest you need. You're not getting the proper sleep you need.
Yep.
Because most creatives, our creative time is during the night.
Yep.
Where your body needs to rest during the nighttime.
That is so true. And I'm laughing, man, because I tell my wife, like 11, 12 o'clock at night, my mind start going, brother. And I'm just like, stop. I need to go to bed. And my mind is just going with ideas of what to do, do this, do that, it's just going. And I hear writers talk about that a lot. Like, I get all of my writing done in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you said that, because that's crazy. My mind is like, I can't turn it off. Sometimes I can't even sleep.
Yeah, all my ideas and new ventures and everything I'm thinking about, it always hit at nighttime or like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome, though. That just shows the entrepreneurial, spirit in you, man. It reminds me of that book, E-Myth Revisited. It's a book, man. It's been out for a long time that I know a lot of people read, and they talk about being an entrepreneur and about working for your business and not in your business. Kind of like what you just said, man. That's an awesome concept, man. But all right, so yeah, we kind of winding down here. A couple more things I wanted to talk about. I know you're a big sneakerhead, and one of the things when we did your wedding, Kenny was like, "Man, he a big sneakerhead, bro." He said, "Make sure you get pictures of his sneakers." You know what I mean? So, talk a little bit about your sneaker collection, man.
Oh man, yeah, I got a crazy.
You
sneaker
had like
collection.
3 pairs at the wedding. You was just these are those and these are those, and talk a little bit about that, man. I got a
crazy sneaker collection. It started when I was actually really young. I remember every month my father would take me down on Lexington Street. I can't remember the name of the tennis shoe store, but they would always have, and back in these days, they would have the tennis shoe wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
And they had the roll with all the Jordans. They were Sky Jordans at that time, the Air Max and all of these. And he would take me every month and say, okay, go ahead and pick one.
Nice.
And I would just pick one. And I remember like living, and it was good. Then I remember when I was about 16, 17, it was total opposite. It was like, I remember not having that many pair of sneakers, and was like, oh boy, I'm recycling and trying to wash these and keep these things going. And then when I started getting older, that passion for sneakers and the collection really came, because I just love putting stuff on display. So I had them all in shoe boxes and all this. And then every time I moved, I would start downgrading and giving away. Because I say, okay, in order for me, God always say, in order for me to give you more, you got to get rid of some of this stuff. Yep. And I remember last year I gave away about 25 pair of sneakers to one person.
Wow, man.
And the person reached out and said, one pair of these sneakers you gave me is worth like $5,000. I said, wow. I can't say give them back to me. They say, oh no, we not even gonna try to sell them. It's just that I was just letting you know that I said, well, it wasn't really about that. What it was more about was getting rid of stuff that I know I wasn't wearing. It was really just taking up space.
Yeah. Wow, man.
And I got rid of them all. And then I said, you know what? And I was so connected to the shoe boxes. Oh, no, I got to keep the boxes. And when you really started God propelling you to another level, he started having to disconnect you from certain things. Like all those things you think you need, you don't really necessarily have to need. Yep. So I got rid of all my shoe boxes, and it was heartbreaking. Turned them all up, putting them in the trash bags, and I said, I just now got them all in nice display cases. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm good. And I kind of slowed down because I said one of the bigger issue was in the boxes, there's so many, and sometimes I don't feel like I got to move 5 boxes to get one. Yep. And what happened was I started, out of my hundreds of pairs of sneakers, I was realizing I was only wearing 3 to 5 pairs. So, but with the display case, I'm like, man, now I'm actually I'm wearing tennis shoes that I hadn't worn a year and a half because I can see them and I can easily access them to them. So it's like, wow, God, thank you. I needed this, and I didn't even know I needed it. So it's it's just been a blessing to, you know, and I know now, like every year at the end of the year, I'll get rid of 10 or 15 pair because I already see now, like, oh my God, I just got rid of all these boxes and now
Stacking up again.
Stacking up again. But I've been doing a lot better because in my mind this year, what I did was from January till about March. I said, you know what? Instead of putting this money on sneakers, I'm actually going to put this money away. And what it allowed me to do was I built a school in Ghana, started building a couple years ago, and we finished it last year 90%.
Congratulations.
And one of the big things that was needed was a courtyard, because in Ghana, before they have school, they come out to the courtyard, have prayer, sing some morning hymns. And the kids did not have that. It was dirt. So of course you can't have them out because if it rains, it's mud.
Right.
So it was taken away from that opportunity from them doing it. So I said, you know what? Save that money up. And I sent that money last week and they started doing a courtyard and it'll be done next week. So I said, see, what I thought I could have took that money to buy me definitely buy me a good collection of shoes. I said, you know what? It's more important to be able to give this to these kids. That way they could come outside because one of those kids may have been going through something and needed that morning inspiration, that morning prayer, that morning just devotion. So I said, you know, God will return double, triple.
Absolutely.
It's not really about that. It's really about when you're in a position and you say that you're going to do these things, that you actually have to really do it.
Yeah. That's an awesome story, man. And congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Again, I go back to you always wanting to give, man, and help. You know, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, brother. What gear are you using today? Like photography gear, man. Let's nerd out on that for a little bit.
So, my go-to camera, my everyday camera is the Nikon Z9.
Okay.
And then I'm a huge Fuji because I'm really into colors. And for some reason, something about holding that Fuji camera.
I don't know what it is, man.
It really just pushed me into this super creative mode.
Yes.
So I have the X-T3 and all that stuff, but for the last 4 years, I remember I was always dreaming that I would have a medium format. And I bought my first one 4 years ago. And now about 3 months ago, I bought the new GFX 100 Mark II, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I took it to my trip in India. The photos are just like unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's my creative camera when I really want to get in my creative element or on my high level creative stuff for certain clients. That's the camera I use. But my everyday is a Z9. And then I just purchased because I was like, man, I don't have a backup camera to my Z9. And you know, I want to, you know, that camera just does everything I need to do. Right. So I just bought the Nikon Z6 II.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I had it for 2 weeks and it's still sitting in the box.
That's cool, man. That's cool. We had T-Shawn Jackson was on, and I think he's big in the Fuji. And he said that he got the medium format. I forget which one. I don't know if it was the GFX 50 or which one he had. And I asked him, and I asked you too, what makes the Fuji medium format camera with like when you get the photo out of there, how does it feel? How does it look? What he said was it hit different.
It hit totally different. One of the big things is it's the only camera I know that I can zoom in at 100% and it's still tack sharp.
Really?
Tack sharp. Wow. Because you got to think, I mean, it's
bigger sensor,
a huge sensor.
Yeah.
And then, you know, back in the day, that was the camera that people like Gordon Parks and like the big editorial photographers was using. And most major commercial sets are using medium format. One is because the megapixel, the data, it allows you to almost do anything to that photo when it comes to retouching and editing. And then if you want to blow it up to a billboard, it's still going to be tack sharp. You're not taking away from anything. And what I really love about Fuji is, right, they really thought this thing through. because they're constantly, Fuji been in this game a long time.
They want the originals.
We want the originals.
Yeah.
So what they do every year is they go back and they have these things called simulations in that camera, but they also have a thing called recipes where you can also create your own version of how you want things to look.
Yeah.
But they created one of their most popular rolls of film was the 400. So they created a reality simulation that duplicates that. And when I say the colors, it's super vibrant, but it also have this tint of vintage mixture. So it's like the best of both worlds. So I always tell people, just holding it is like, when I let my friends, they say, oh my God, now I see. And then I got the eyepiece that flip up, the tilt, so you can shoot at any angle and be looking right down at it. Oh yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't had the medium format, but I had my fair share of Fujis back when they first start to kind of come back. I had the XT2 and one of the X100s and, and all of that stuff I had back then. And then I sold it all and bought all Sony stuff. But, that's kind of where I'm at today. But like you and I was talking about on DMs, man, I definitely got to get me another X100, man. I'm not in a big rush, but
that new one is, oh my God, it's so one of the reasons I really like the new one is because sometimes as a photographer you walk around these big cameras and you don't want to do street photography. It can be intimidating to people.
It can be,
but when they see that small camera, they not even thinking that you're a photographer. They just thinking you probably just somebody out there just don't and you can say, hey, can I take your photo? And they'll say versus you with a DSLR, the first question you're gonna what are you gonna do with this photo? When you use that little small he probably just.
And a lot of people was interested, like when I had the X100 before I sold it, people would stop me to ask me about the camera because it's so retro looking. I had the silver one. And they were just like, what kind of camera is that? Or, or if you ask them to take their photo, they would agree.
Yeah. So it's that camera. Like I think right now it's, especially with the influx of people on TikTok and Instagram really pushing it. Like you can't, right now, every camera store is on back order. And it's crazy. I was on eBay this week and people are selling that camera that costs $1,600 for $3,000.
$3,000.
And people are paying for it because they want it. It's like, it's amazing the influence that social media can have.
Yes, man. Yes, man. It's crazy. Even the one before that, the X100, I think it was the X100V. You can't even find that one.
No, and now the people who are selling that at $1,600.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it is what it is. And I guess eventually I'll get my hand on one, unless I had to wait for the 7 whenever that comes out. You know, but it is what it is. But so tell all the people, man, where they can find you at, where tell your nonprofit, your photography page, your Instagram, all of the, stuff where they can find you.
My Instagram for my regular everyday photography and all the different campaigns is J_Unique Eye _
Okay.
I hope. And then for the nonprofit is Hope Missions Ghana, which you can find on Instagram or hopemissionsghana.org. And then for my new venture, so about a month ago, I created 4 years ago, I had this idea. And this year it was like, okay, God told me it was the time to release it. Yeah. So I created the first 100% mobile studio.
I saw that, man.
So I got a trailer from the manufacturer, had it built, customized the way I wanted it, and then I got it and added my photography spin. So it has heat, it has air, lights, TVs, the whole 9 yards. So we can pull at any. So it's like, the 360 was popular for weddings. It's like, what's next? So now I could have a wedding planner or decorator that the wedding planner decorate this whole trailer to mock the wedding. Yeah. And now your guests from the wedding can actually come in the trailer, take photos and get them instantly. Yeah. But you can have it customized the way however you want to customize for and I'm using a software where if I take a photo 5 times of the same person, they'll scan their face. It'll scan a QR code. They'll upload a selfie, and every photo that they're in that day, it will create their own personal gallery and text it to them.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's like it was super innovative. It wasn't just like, okay, let me just throw something together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and that Instagram is Portrait Truck Studio, and the website is portraitstudiotruck.com.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna be doing a grand opening for that in Baltimore on June the 30th. We're partnering with the High Dimensions at the Palladium.
Yeah.
So our goal is to have about 10 or 15 food trucks.
Yeah.
Or any mobile services, and then vendors. If you want to promote your business, you want to come out and do a live podcast or whatever you want to do, we're going to be opening it up. It's a huge parking lot with over 400 parking spaces.
Across from Mondawmin?
Across from Mondawmin.
All right. Yeah, I may hit you up with that, man. I got to look at my calendar. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I may be down there, man. And I got a one of the guys I know, man, he just started a food truck here in York. I'll tell him about it, man. Put you in contact with him, man. You know, so, but yeah, man, this has been great, man. I told y'all it was going to be different and it was going to be great. And I think we got a lot of insight from my man Jermaine here, you know, of what to do, how to get started, you know, how to get into the industry. I think this was very, very informal for everybody. So until the next one, appreciate you staying around. Appreciate you listening. This will be on YouTube and also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So follow and subscribe. We appreciate you being around. Peace out.
Peace.